Hello, my lovely friends. Welcome back to my channel. I took some time off for the holidays and I'm finally back with my first video of 2026. So I bought this Gund plush mouse bear. I think he's a mouse, but he's a Gund creation. He's probably from 60s, 70s, I want to say. And I found him at my local antique mall, and he was in a bin full of plush, and I found him at the bottom, and I said, "You have to be saved." And also, can we talk about the fact that this plush is wearing underwear? I mean, that was a fun little surprise. His overalls are barely holding it together. These took me quite some time to restore, but we are going to perform a little surgery here. I'm in my kitchen right now, and we are going to de-stuff, cut his back seam open and de-stuff. This is probably like my 5th or 6th time restoring plush. I really like restoring plush. One of my first videos I watched was Cole from Kitschy Flower. He is, if you guys aren't following him, check him out. He does amazing restoration work on plush and Barbies and all of that stuff. So amazing toy restoration. So this baby boy is filled with cotton fabric and fluff, and it's pretty hard in there, and like it's old. It's really old in there. So whenever I de-stuff a plush, especially a vintage plush, I always wear gloves. Mentioning Cole again on his channel, he's found cigarette butts in here, papers, like bugs. You just don't know what you're gonna find. And yeah, but the point of removing this plush, and fun little find here is there's a little wire mechanism to bend the arms around, is we need to give this baby boy a bath because he's a real dirty boy. And you'll see here soon the dingy water that comes out of washing this guy. So he was in desperate need of a bath. So I'm just putting all the arms and appendages inside out to get all of that stuffing out, and making sure that I'm being super careful with the seams because, again, it's old. I don't know if he's mohair. This is everything I pulled out. There's always way more than you think in there. And same with restuffing it. The ear was barely hanging on, so I just went ahead and snipped the little stitches. You can tell that this bear or mouse, this plush was loved, and I think that whoever had this held it by the ear, and you can tell it was already sewn back on once or twice. So I'm just using some gentle, I usually use Meyer's soap, but I didn't have any more, so I used my gentle dish soap from Target. It's Up and Up brand. And we're doing like a lukewarm because the red corduroy on this, I don't know if it would bleed. So I don't usually do hot water anyway, but lukewarm, more to luke than warm. And we're just gently, this is sped up, and it looks like I'm rubbing really roughly, but I'm not. I'm being very gentle, and I'm just massaging the soap suds into the fur. I don't know if I said before, I'm not sure if this is mohair or what kind of fur it is. Often these vintage plushes were mohair. Nonetheless, we are just giving this baby a good bath, and boy, oh boy, did he need it. And he's a gray fur, and woohoo, that dishwater is dirty dishwater. That was the first round. I think I do this like 3 more times. You basically want to just keep washing them and rinsing them until your water runs clean, or clear, I should say. So I did the plush first, and then I did the overalls or garments second, the underwear and the overalls. So I'm just trying to concentrate rubbing in where there's a few little stains. They're not going to come out 100%. And that's okay. This is a vintage item. I'm not trying to make it look brand new. I just want it to be cleaned and fluffed up and restuffed. So with my rubber face plushes, I will sometimes repaint their faces. This one, I didn't end up doing that. The little plastic eyes, I didn't touch the face. I just basically gave him a bath. I restuffed him. I sewed his overalls back together and just gave him a new fresh life. So my water's pretty clear there, and I'm just rinsing the rest of the soap out on him, as well as his lone ear. And I'm going to set them on a paper towel, and then we're going to wash the overalls. So while the overalls are washing, I'm going to talk about trying to look this guy up. I can't find him. I Google search gun toy catalogs, plush catalogs. I looked on eBay. I used Google image searches. The closest thing, and I'm going to put a picture up here, that I could find was a rabbit. So the rabbit had the same eyes, and here's another dish pour or water pour. So the overalls were not as dirty, but still pretty dirty, which was expected. So back to the finding this plush. There was a rabbit. That was the closest thing I could find online. So if anybody has seen this guy before or has him, I would love to know. Because I really have nothing to go off of. And the bunny, as you saw in the picture, had buttons on the overalls. And I thought, oh, well, were there buttons on these overalls? Should I add buttons? So I love to see what they originally looked like. And sometimes that's nearly impossible just because, plushes were very, abundant, should I say. But usually you can find something similar. So this is our cutie patootie all laid out on some paper towels just to kind of absorb some of that moisture. And then I use some pant hangers, and we are going to line dry this guy. So he's just going to sit in my backyard on our basketball hoop here. And he's going to line dry in the air, in the sun. It's not a warm day. I think the high today was in the 50s. So it took a while, but this is now the next day. And we are going to start stuffing our friend here. But first I need to sew this ear back on. There is a hole where the ear was, and I do believe that's purposeful. This is also what I'm going to use the polyfill to fill him with. There is a purposeful hole here, and if you'll see on the other ear, it was pulled through to kind of give it that like puckered look. And I'm loving how he's so much more vibrant already now that he's dry. So you can see there the ears pulled through and sewn and attached. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. The ears also have a little bendable metal piece in the tips of the ears to give them that pierced or puckered look. If you know what I'm trying to say. I think puckered is the right word. So we're stuffing that through, and then I use embroidery thread. I really like to use embroidery thread versus regular sewing thread. It's sturdier, it's thicker. You can also take the threads down. You can split embroidery thread and have less threads. It's just really, it's sturdy. So our ear is sewed back on. I lost the footage I had footage of it sewing, but I thought I was recording and it wasn't. So I apologize, but it's back on. It doesn't have to be purdy. It doesn't have to be purdy. It doesn't have to be pretty. Cause you're not going to see the stitching on the inside. So I have these big long tweezers I had from my dad. He was a science teacher and he had lots of these long tweezers. I used to use scissors, but I find the tweezers are less abrasive. Sometimes the tip of your scissors can actually pierce through the fabric. So I have these long tweezers and they are a godsend. They really help push that polyfill into each appendage. and get it in. So you just want to mold it. You don't want to overstuff it, but you want to make sure you have enough stuffing in there so you don't end up getting pockets of emptiness. You want it to be just filled to the right amount. And you'll know it. It's by feel. I'm trying to make sure they're not lumpy legs, that they're even, etc. It's just kind of a fill and look, fill more, look. And you will definitely use way more polyfill than you think you're going to use. These plushes hold a lot, and polyfill condenses too. So this also, I like to use polyfill too because it's a softer touch versus like the old sawdust or the cotton filling that was in there. And the cotton filling was just gross and dingy in there. Sometimes it's possible to save the filling and keep it as OG as possible, but I often just, I put new polyfill inside. So I'm putting the wire mechanism in there. I put some polyfill down first and then kind of sandwiched the wire between the polyfill. So I'm just going to keep filling him up and checking his face, because we want to make sure his face gets filled out so that his little snout or nose doesn't get smushed back in. Because if there's not enough polyfill in there, it will be like an air pocket and it won't fill, or, it won't keep its shape and it'll look all funky and his nose will push in. So you want to make sure you have enough of the polyfill in there. And right here, this cutie has a booty. Like, look at that booty. So, yeah, we gave him a little booty. So this is looking pretty good. And I'm realizing I'm going to put a stitch or start my stitch right here at the neck. And that's just to help so that he doesn't look like a sausage and that he actually has a defined neck as I finish filling him with polyfill. And that way it'll keep, the polyfill that needs to stay in the head and the polyfill that needs to stay in the body kind of separated and give that definition so that when I'm stuffing him, he doesn't just look like a log, essentially. So now I'm going to go and, again, there's no rocket science here. I'm not a sewer, you guys. I am just stitching along down the back of the seam the same way the previous, because a lot of these were hand stitched. I know Rushtons were hand stitched. So a lot of these vintage plushes were hand stitched, and these were toys that were played with. So through the years, mom, kid busted a stitch on their plush, their favorite plush they take everywhere with them. I was one of those kids, and my mom often had to fix stitches or pop seams. In fact, I just fixed one of my daughter's bears. The arm was falling off and I just sewed it. So here he is all stitched back up, and it's not a beautiful job. It's not a perfect job. I'm going to flip in a second here, but seeing the arms are posable again with the wire in there. And here we go. I chose red. I also didn't talk about that. I chose red because of his red accents. So I just liked it. It just gives that homemade, hobbyist put together piece. I don't know. I like the look of it. I know it's not for everyone. There's probably people who are going to yell at me in the comments for even restoring this plush. Like, leave it alone. I don't care. You don't have to look at it. Anyways, we're going to put his undies back on. That's the only thing I didn't have to fix on this mouse bear hybrid. But his overalls, oh my gosh, the overalls took me a hot minute to fix. There was a lot of hand sewing. The hem was pulling apart. All the pulled apart parts that were detached were fraying. I had to trim all of the edges of the fray bits. And then I needed to tighten up the ankles at the bottom as well. So I had fixed the overall straps that were loose, that were being held together by a safety pin. I've done one of the legs, and I'm going to show you now how I did the other one here. I thought maybe it was elastic there that's just worn out. It's not. It's just a fabric piping. But see how it's coming apart here? So I'm actually not going to sew through that white fabric there, or whatever you call that part, because again, not a sewer, just a self-taught, proclaimed, crafter. I can do the bare basics. So I'm pulling this embroidery thread again. That's what I've used on this entire piece is embroidery thread to stitch him all back together. So I'm just tying a knot at the end here, and then I'm just going to pull the thread through back and forth and give it so that when I pull the thread through tighter, it cinches it together and gives that ruffled cuff on the end, as you can see here. I did speed it up, but there's only so much sewing I'm sure you guys want to watch on here. So I sped it up so you're not totally bored out of your mind and click off the video. So, because the views help and the longer you stay, the more it helps me. And speaking of which, if you like what you're seeing, please don't forget to like and subscribe on my video. So we're back. He's put together. He's looking fabulous. His floppy ears are prime and ready for some holding, loving. I am super happy with how he came out. I contemplated putting a ribbon around his neck, but again, because I couldn't find an original, like what he looked like, I don't know if there were buttons on his overalls. I don't know if he had a ribbon around his neck. And honestly, I think he's beautiful just the way he is. Look at how fluffy and gray he is now. He's actually gray, not like a brown tinged fluff, and his fur fluffed right back up. Sometimes I have to brush them. I didn't. And if you need this cutie patootie in your life, he is in my Etsy shop right now. You can grab him. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and I will be pumping out some new videos. I am moving, so there might be some delays, but I'll see you guys soon.